All right, let's talk a little bit about establishing a physical connection with a horse and the difference between a physical connection and physical control. Let me explain it like this. Let's just explain it in the humans type of thinking, human to human. So let's say I'm trying to explain something to you and you don't want to listen, right? And you start to turn away from me, right? And I grab a hold of your elbow. So I'm holding on to your elbow like this, right? Saying, listen to me, I want to explain something to you. So now you're like this. I got a hold of your elbow and you're looking at me, right? And so now I've established a physical connection, right? I've got a hold of your elbow. So I still don't want to listen to what you're trying to explain to me. So I start doing this. I shift my weight like this and I start doing this, right? I'm just holding, right? I'm not pulling. So even if it gets to the point where the person goes like this and really starts shaking and wiggling, saying, I don't want to listen to what you're saying, you're still not controlling. You're just holding, right? You're not using it. You didn't have to change your position or anything. And the person is just almost turned away, but he's shaking a lot here, right? Where it becomes, in my book, where it becomes physical control is if that shaking continues, right? And then that person steps and pulls. See, if you watch some of my videos, I'm pretty sure it was in teaching a horse to seek out X. I talked about, a horse doing this. If you take a hold of them, right? It's like taking a hold, and they're doing this, right? But once this continues, and that horse shifts his weight and starts to go and leave, now if you use more force, you're becoming controlling. And that's why I said this is where I step away. I step off the horse. All right, we'll just separate, because everything I do is on separation. And that's one thing that when I talk about a lot of this stuff, a lot of people don't do this. See, even putting a saddle on him, I have no intention of riding him. I had to get the saddle out of storage because I haven't been using it. It's wintertime. I do this for him. Give him the experience to be saddled and saddled, fully cinched as I was going to ride him, just so he's got the saddle on. See, nothing's going to happen, but that's another experience that he's got, having that saddle on and having it fully cinched up, so that he doesn't think that every time I put a saddle on him, I'm going to ride him. And I do it for him, and I do it to ease my convenience for when I do ride him, because he's had the saddle on that many more times. It's different to have the saddle on fully cinched up, and then your weight in the saddle too. It's different. I let him do that. He's going to find out I'm going to do something different with him today. So one thing I'll tell you here is I really wanted to do this with another horse that I was training for quite a while. But because I'm only seeing this horse once a week, right? And I saw it for several weeks. But one thing that horse told me, and that horse and this horse are very similar in the fact that they both get introverted, and they're both very comfortable with material things. They're kind of horse that, when left alone, they're interested in picking this up and putting that up. Put a saddle on them, it really doesn't bother them until you maybe connect with that saddle. Material things really don't bother those things. It's when you establish a physical connection with these things that sometimes these two horses, but that horse and this horse are so similar. The only one difference between this horse and that horse is that he's been handled and owned by a lot more people, and he has developed an aggressive type of behavior where he actually will charge you. And he charged me several times. The thing is, you got to be confident enough not to run away from that charge, sensible enough to get out of the way if you have to, but knowing what to do to block the charge or whatever. So that adds that one more thing. And the other thing I talk about, because primarily I was working that horse once a week, and I've done this away from home, this type of training. And you got to understand, if I'm there for an hour, 2 hours, right? There's only about, on an average week, 84 waking hours, daylight hours in a week, right? So you think of it in inches. 7 feet, 84 inches, right? So if I'm there once a week, and I'm there for an hour or two, right? Here's Bill. Here's Bill. Here's 2 inches. Here's 2 inches of mud compared to 84 inches. It's nothing. And the other thing I'll tell you, because I was working this horse the same way once a week, you people really don't want to put your time in. But that's minimal amount of time. I started this horse sometime in September, and along with a couple others. And handling this horse's feet was a fiasco. It took from early September, and if I'm not mistaken, it was either right before Christmas or right before New Year's. It was one of the last 2 weeks of December before I could actually handle him and trim him successfully. So, people will go, oh my God. But like I said, understand, I was there once a week. There's 80 or so hours. This horse is dealing with a whole different environment. So I'm going to show you what I did. I did do this like on the last training session with this horse I was telling you about. And the conditions got bad, and colder weather set in. We had a lot of wet weather. It was raining. But I'm not too sure, and I haven't talked to the owner yet, and I will. I'm actually going to show her this video because I'm not sure she quite understood this physical connection in my explaining it. So I'm going to do it with him. So the other thing I'll tell you about this is that what it does, and I've had a rope around this guy's leg before, but what I've had around his leg is just a loose rope, right? Holding both ends of the rope. Like, so if I was holding it like this, and I put it around his leg like this, right? And there's videos out there about Ray Hunt doing it and calling it follow a feel. See, it's just a suggestion. He's got the horse by the leg with the rope, and he calls it follow a feel, and I more like to say follow a suggestion, because that horse may not be open. Let's say the horse wanted. What you might try to do if you were doing it at Liberty is have good focus and suggest to move the foot in this direction. But when you start to establish this physical connection, whether it's on the head or on the foot or anything, you start to hold and say, I'd like this to come over here, right? A little bit of weight shift. That's a suggestion. It's like this. Hey, can you just listen to what I'm trying to offer you or tell you or suggest to you? And that's there. A lot of people get all distraught when they start seeing a rope hooked to a horse's leg. Oh, why would a person even do that? That's cruel. Let me tell you something. That hooking a rope to a horse's head, that's a human conception. That's a human rule. This horse or any other horse that's never had a rope hooked to him, he has no idea or no concern as to whether you put it on his head or his leg or wherever. All he knows is that all of a sudden you've put some type of control on him. In a sense, you're restricting his movement. So I'm going to do it with him, and he'll probably be okay, especially because of the just because I see what kind of horse I brought in here. The more you get to do this stuff, the better you start to understand what kind of troubles am I going to have today. I'm not expecting any trouble at all. He's probably going to do this and do it instantly. I can't help that, you know. I just know by what I got. The other two horses have been grazing over here. He ate some grass in here, and I asked him to come over here. See, he came over here, and his nose is still tipped over to me. He hasn't tried to leave at all. So I'm not really expecting anything to happen other than the fact that when I hook up this rope to his leg, he's probably going to do everything correct. The other thing I want to say, like I told you, I did it loose, right? So when it's loose, there's really no tightening effect. There's a feeling here of tightness, but there's actually no, see this is actually going to, if he pulls, this is actually going to tighten, right? So it's no different than if I was holding your elbow, right? If you started to restrict me, my grip is going to get tighter. I'm just holding, but my grip is going to get tighter. Exact same thing. So, I'll show you here. So he's, like I said, it's going to be, I think, relatively a walk in the park, but he's certainly going to know the feeling here. See? And this, here's what I want to tell you. Don't ever try to do this with a horse. That horse I told you I had in training, he went through several weeks of running away from me and understanding the fact that running away was no good. Plus the fact that I knew he was not worried about material things. So even if he did get away from me, I would just let him go. Having that rope hooked to his leg is not going to put him in a panic. You do this with the wrong kind of horse, and a lot of horses, if they took off running with this attached to their leg, they would go into a total panic. So don't ever do stupid stuff. What I'm doing is not stupid. You have to understand the difference between being stupid and being, so if I pick up here and I look, see, here's the shaking, right? I'm holding. And so when he shifts his weight back, see, I just stop. See, there's slack. He's still coming. He goes, oh, I understand now. See, there's the head shaking. I don't care whether you're holding it to his, on his face or on his leg. There's the shaking. So that was a good example. Thank you, buddy, for doing that. But you see how much, because it only took him a second to go, oh, he wants me to come to him. I didn't even have to suggest. You see, he continued on his own because he knows coming back to me is a good place to be. And I'll go, hey, great, perfect. And the other thing I want to say, a lot of people tell me, well, Phil, my horse, he follows me everywhere. I go out to get him, he'll follow me around. Yes, he'll follow you around, but are you actually asking him to do anything? That's the difference. You start asking a horse to move over or back up for you, you're going to find out that what used to be following you around isn't anymore. So even if I take the rope here and I go up this way, right? He may get confused with me wanting his hindquarters, but I'm going to look at his front feet. And as soon as he shifts his weight forward, I'm just going to let go of it. See, now he's turning a little bit. So if I go, I look at his front feet and I'll go, come here. He's actually got to look at what I want. So there's your argumentative, but I'm going to look here. Come forward. Come forward. Look at what I'm looking at. No, that's not forward. The front feet got to come forward here. That's forward. Even though he's kind of wanting to paw at the rope, it was still a forward motion with his hoof. So I can't. all that is. And like I said, because it's hooked to his leg, people go, oh my God, that's cruel. It isn't cruel, because he doesn't understand it. Where you hook that rope, they don't have any rules like that. That's only what I want to call stupid human rules. You know, so that horse, what it was having a lot of trouble was having trouble handling his feet. But the other thing is, he had a hard time backing up. So I was doing a lot of backing with him. As I told you in a lot of other my hoof handling videos, that when you're asking for the hoof to come backwards, that horse actually has to have a backwards stop. So what I was trying to teach him was to have a backward stop. Even with Lane, look at Lane, how much work I did with that horse. All I had to do was teach him to back up. And a lot of people are going to say, well, in the long run, it's going to cost you a lot more money to have me come to your place and train. For one thing, I got to travel now, so that's an expense. It's time and it's an expense. And this is going to get drawn out one time a week, or even 2 times a week. This is going to get drawn out. A lot of horse people, they want to see riding, and you know, even with that horse Flicka. Well, geez, Bill, all you did was teach a horse to go to X, because nobody else did it. They all got on that horse, started riding it, walk, trot, let's canter, let's see if this horse will canter. I want that horse to understand it. I can be on its back. We can go to places together and do it without a problem. Instead of building speed. You start building speed, you're going to get in trouble. That horse has already been in enough damn trouble. Same thing with Lane, ex-racehorse. He was taught, run for your life. All I had to do was learn to sit there and say, hey, come back over here and just relax. Shut your motor off and just shut off. So, take a bow, buddy. One over here. And I told the owner of that horse that that horse would be just like him. Because when you develop that separation, and when I first started working with him, like I said, he's an introvert too. He didn't blink much at all, but as the weeks progressed, and I pointed it out quite a lot, when he got to this, he'd get to a lot of blinking going on, and to a point where when I bring him into the pen, he had a lot of blinking going on. And even if he did get a little introverted, if he got a little bit, what are you looking for? Even if he got a little separation, he would, 20 feet or so, boy, he'd go right back to blinking. So, there you go. See, that's a physical connection. Can I give you a suggestion, and will you go to where I want you to go? The other thing I'll point out here, as to what exactly I look at when I'm doing that, and what I was looking at with that other particular horse. So when I first started pulling on the rope, right, what I was doing was looking at a small spot right here, and I was focusing, and I had a hold of his foot. And what I'm saying is, can you just bring your foot right there and put it right down there? Not there. And I look, I go, right there. And if he would commit to just staying there, I'd just say, hey, that was pretty good. But if he started, like a person starting to turn away, right, see their head, so even with a horse, human, same thing. They start to turn their head away like this, they're leaving you. So then my focus would go from here to here, because you're not looking anymore. What I was looking at originally was here. So this is the same principle as teaching a horse to go to X. So if I'm standing back there instead of looking there, because the horse turned his turned his head away. Hey, get over here. Because the horse turned his head away, see, turned his head away and started looking that way more. I started looking at the point of the shoulder now. And I'm saying, I don't want that going forward, I want it going backwards. See, when you get really good, you're being so damn good today. Huh, that's right, because you're getting so much more. And you could see the difference even with him. See, we're not out in the driveway doing this, we're in the arena. So just where you are makes a lot of difference on how comfortable the horse is going to be. You know, if you look at that video I just did about how and why I do what I do works. See, we were out in a different environment. His head was up higher that day. And, you know, there's little things. The other horses, there's a couple horses right over here. And it's calm here today. The wind isn't blowing. So all these little things you got to pay attention to. Good job.